When you travel far enough away from Earth, one thing becomes clear. This planet, alone in the cosmos, is the place where people live.
You probably know that voice, but maybe not the person who wrote the words. Meryl Streep narrates the Apple TV adaptation of Oliver Jeffers' book, Here We Are, Notes for Living on Planet Earth. It's just one offering by the artist from Northern Ireland who's sold more than 14 million books worldwide. In his new book, Meanwhile Back on Earth, Jeffers takes readers on a ride through space and explains some complicated topics for young audiences. Nikki Battiste met Jeffers in his Brooklyn, New York studio to talk about his unique style, which has made him a favorite among kids and kids at heart.
I think a lot of people may not know your name, but they know this handwriting.
Yeah.
Oliver Jeffers is a name you might not recognize.
When I was doing book tours and I would stand up there and kids didn't care who I was until I started drawing them, like, oh, that guy.
But that guy's work is sitting on kids' bookshelves and in bookstores around the world, including Brooklyn's Books Are Magic, where Jeffers bumped into a young fan.
Were you a big reader when you were growing up?
No, I was not. But I was much more interested in playing football in the street or digging holes or drawing pictures.
The author's childhood love of illustration drew him to the art world. He exhibited works in Northern Ireland and Australia when his career took a chance turn.
The art that I was making was paintings. They were all, single images, very narrative based. Rather than telling the beginning or the middle or the end of a story, each one of these paintings was one of those three. And then I had this one idea that rather than have it as a series of paintings, I recognized this is going to be better as a book and maybe a picture book. And that became How to Catch a Star.
From How to Catch a Star came 20 other picture books, including the New York Times bestseller, Here We Are. It was his first written after the birth of his first child, Harlan.
Until I had kids, the books were really just me kind of entertaining myself, just telling good stories that I would have wanted to hear as a child. And thankfully, it just so happened that my sense of humor resonates with a lot of 5-year-olds walking around the face of Earth. But when we had a kid, this filter shift happened where it's like, wait a minute, I have to explain everything to you.
His new book, Meanwhile Back on Earth, was inspired by Jeffers' own experience growing up in Northern Ireland. The story is told through the lens of a family road trip through space. It was a way for Jeffers to explain topics like climate change and global conflict. The idea was born out of his art installation in the United Kingdom, Our Place in Space. It's an over 5-mile-long scale model of the solar system.
It feels like Meanwhile Back on Earth is fun for kids looking at space, but really a history lesson for adults.
Yes, it's a history lesson for adults, but it's also a comment on the environment in which we live. You can throw a dart back through time in history, and wherever it lands, pretty much you're going to find some all-consuming battle that took place, and humans fighting each other over things that, with the distance of time and space, ultimately haven't really mattered that much.
I think most people wouldn't expect that a children's book would address the climate crisis or global conflict.
I would firstly say to that, why not? We make a mistake as a society if we just try to protect and idolize our children, because we're not preparing them for the world at large. A lot of times parents are not willing to have conversations that they themselves are not comfortable with. And I think if it's done in a healthy enough way, children are a lot more intuitive, adept, and observant than they're often given credit for.
What did your son Harlan think when you first read the book to him?
He just keeps looking to see if it's him in the book.
Jeffers' work goes beyond the page and includes some unexpected collaborations.
Yeah, I've worked with U2 a fair bit. Bono and I met in a bar and we kind of liked each other. And
that's a sentence everyone dreams of saying. Bono and I met in a bar and we kind of liked each other.
Yeah, we got along and we got talking, and he invited me to be part of a workshop for his charity One. And at that point they were thinking about making a music video for Ordinary Love. And so he got me to do that too. And then that led on to other projects. I did all the art for their last tour on the big screen. I became like a collaborator with them rather than a done for hire, which always felt like a very healthy relationship.
But his magical mind seems to always find its way back to picture books.
When you get in the flow, it's about one of the most joyous moments. I'll crack myself up sometimes and shoot on my own. Then you forget that it goes out and has a life on its own, and it's not up to me what people think about it.
And it's in millions of children's bedrooms.
Yeah, that's a wild thought. No, I'm not going to think about that. I'm just going to keep making the next one.
Jeffers' current book, Meanwhile Back on Earth, is on sale now. Time magazine describes it as a dose of reality, a dash of whimsy. And we have another very important 2-year-old critic, my son Bo, loves the book, gives it raves review. Yes, we've read it quite a few times. I think this is one of the first times we read it, but he said, I'm going to space. I'm going to space. Yeah, it's a great book.
And igniting the mind of a child.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Tony, I think your kids are fans, right?
Yes, they are. I was going to say shout out to Books Are Magic where you shot that. It's a fantastic bookstore in Brooklyn, which has a lot of fantastic bookstores, but that's a particularly special one. My kiddos, all 4 of them have been read Oliver Jeffers, and I got to say the winner is not the Big Ideas one, but actually Stuck, which is a story about a boy whose kite gets stuck in a tree, and then the boy throws up everything in the neighborhood, up to and including like cars, trucks, boats, a whale, and everything gets stuck in the tree. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
It's like, and then he falls asleep and leaves it all there. It's a great story.
He's such a talented guy, and his mind was just spinning. I said, does your mind ever stop? And he said, no, my wife says we have to go on 3-week vacations because it takes 2 weeks for my mind to just pause.
No doubt
He's
about
really
it. That's
talented.
awesome.
Great guy.
Nikki, thank you so much.